Welcome to this episode of the International Classroom. Today's guest is Rachael Wilding, a lifelong international educator, school leader, and the founder of Edsidera, a company that's redefining how we celebrate life skills, well-being, and global citizenship in schools. From her upbringing across continents to leading schools in the UAE, Rachael brings a wealth of global insight and a deep passion for people-first education. In this conversation, we explore the purpose behind Edsidera's Bespoke Extracurricular Awards, the value of meaningful recognition, and why initiatives like the Sunshine Squad could be the key to student well-being over the summer, all without adding pressure on families or schools. We are going to jump straight into this. So some people argue that awards, badges, and certificates are just extrinsic fluff, a distraction from deep learning. Why do you think Edsidera provides the opposite?
I have heard that opinion over and over, and we do seem to find ourselves in the era of education where there is a badge, a certificate for anything and everything, for just walking through the school gate sometimes. Edsidera is not that, though. Yes, of course, we do have badges and medals and teddies, depending on the age group, and certificates. It is a tiny fraction of what we do. And, the journey and the opportunity for children to develop skills that they may or may not have had that opportunity before is far more the rich reward than a certificate at the end. I mean, we do predominantly currently deal with children aged 3 to 13. So there is a little bit of a need for the occasional certificate or celebration at the end of the year. But it's not just about handing one out. It is about really having that journey. And the certificate at the end is just a tiny part of it.
Amazing. Thank you. So, Rachael, you are an extremely busy person. We were talking off camera about this week alone and the type of things that are going on around the UAE, around the world at the moment. But let's just go back. Let's go back to the origin, your story, your purpose, and give us a sense of who you are and kind of the journey that you've been on. You mentioned that a little bit. Where did you start in education and how did that lead to where you are today?
So I always like to say I am the expat brat grown up. You know, my parents left the UK when I was tiny. We grew up in Asia and Africa, Europe. And I was never going to get into education. Hey, I was absolutely set on hotel management, having lived all over the world. And again, a skill-based opportunity in my final year in boarding school in South Africa came up. And it was at that point talked about township teaching and had a couple of weeks supporting early literacy and fell in love with it. It was a game changer moment for me. I realized the penny dropped, the light bulb came on, changed my degree. I hadn't obviously started a Southern Hemisphere into Northern. And it was from that moment on education all the way, straight out of uni in the UK into international education again. Thought I would start my own expat life in the UAE. Very much thought 2 years. My parents were living here at the time, and I had this great plan mapped out to move all over the world. Never happened. I've been here for 27 years, worked my way through, the education journey from class teaching to middle leadership to senior leadership to head of primary, overall school principal. Always having something else sort of running parallel. I've always been a champion of others, supported different educational companies, platforms, etc. Been a Pobble champion, learning ladder supporter. But then it became the fact that when you very much have that overall school leadership hat on, you become frustrated with little things that don't quite match up. And obviously living in an international setting, British curriculum is what I've been dealing with predominantly. The resources that you tend to bring in come from those sort of home countries, and they just don't often quite hit the mark. So Edsidera definitely came out of that in the fact that, I wanted it to be bespoke, and that's really where the whole thing started. But I live and breathe education. And even though I've left my overall school leadership position, still a governor, still doing strategic work for schools, still reading and involved in anything and everything, definitely.
Because it's an interesting name, Edsidera. Where did that originate from?
Yeah, it is an interesting name. We wanted something with a star in it, and then we started to look at different things. And those of you that have set up your own companies will understand branding. And I had a really hard lesson in branding and the fact that you want your own identity. So just plucking a name and a few random words that somebody else around the world may have or may not have, it was really important for us to create our own one-worder for our name. I really liked the word Edsidera because I just thought it sounded nice and it kind of gave that. We ran it through a think tank party of about 100 people. And it was well over 50% sort of said that it reminded them of a select beverage. And so being in the education world, that wasn't really going to be appropriate. So we ended up with Edsidera, which is heavenly body and all of that. That's education, and the star type of wording is how we got to Edsidera in the end.
Fantastic. And so there are going to be people out there listening within the UAE that have come across you, maybe seen you at some of the conferences over the last 18 months or so. Yep. And there's going to be people out there that may be like, oh, this is new. This is new. And we don't know about Edsidera. We wonder what they do. So if you were to give us your elevator pitch, 30 seconds, maybe a bit more, we can be generous with time here. Like, what is it that Edsidera does?
We offer extracurricular awards that are bespoke to every single school or company that we work with. We have developed 4 different awards. They rely heavily and concentrate heavily on life skills, entrepreneurship, sustainability, global citizenship, and well-being. But we also make them work for who you are and what you need. So if you're a school in Japan and want Japanese cultural challenges, we'll incorporate them in. If you're a school working on improving your critical thinking skills, we'll craft that in for you. In this region, if you are in Saudi Arabia on 2030 vision or in the UAE with the national agenda, we can make sure that that is also incorporated in. So we do extracurricular awards. We make them bespoke. We always think of children first, but very closely after that, we also really want to support school leadership. So there's a lot that we do to really support that evidence base of the needs of what a school leader may well be looking for alongside what they're offering.
Amazing. So you mentioned something there, obviously the alignment with the national priorities. So obviously you've got UAE's Education 33 agenda, yep. Got ADEX goal as well. How do you ensure then that the awards are relevant and truly relevant then for the schools?
Well, it's always about being part of a community. And I think that's something that's critically important. You have to keep yourself knowledgeable, up to date. And by doing that, you're able to also listen to the needs of anybody's school or anybody's, agenda. Case in point, on the 5th of January in the UAE, the leadership of the country announced that 2025 would be the year of community. We absolutely then the next day contacted our schools using our awards in the UAE and went, do you want a year of community challenge? We've already got it differentiated. We'll slip it into your children's accounts, and therefore we'll be able to give you evidence on that at the end of the academic year. I think being in touch with the people that you deal with and being part of their community is at the heart of everything we do. We're not somebody that just rocks up at the beginning of an academic year and then turns back up the following sort of same time next year. We're constantly in touch, constantly supporting, and just checking in with what anybody needs at any time. So I think it is important to keep yourself up to date. There's no point being a basically support for education if you don't keep up with it.
Yeah. And obviously you mentioned the platform that you've got there. It's a very nice platform, very elegant platform, by the way. How do you go balancing the tech with the tactile, especially when we're now talking about well-being, we're talking about screen times and all these different things. Is there opportunities for offline learning? How does it work?
Yeah, and we very much, it does take sometimes a little bit of conversation whenever we get started, because like many, like you say, it's like, oh no, no more screen time. Oh no, we want to take a step back from that. We are not saying that we are promoting screen-based activities. We are very much promoting the fact that our evidence is kept digitally. We do that for a number of reasons. The children that we are working along with live in the age that it's important that they continue to work on their digital skills. It's important for us because it's how we make our awards bespoke. Obviously, if it was a printed format, it's one size fits all. And it's also a way that we can be sustainable. There is no need for us to be printing things off. And our evidence is digital. It's inclusive. Children are able to therefore do their self-reflection or their evidence through a photo or a video, a voice record note. So although we are an edtech digital company, our challenges, our tasks, none of them are screen-based. It's just where we house all our to-do list and where the children then upload their evidence and how we moderate and give feedback.
Cool. You mentioned awards. I am competitive dad, though I'm not really with my own kids. I try and set a very good example, but internally I want to be competitive dad. And I'm worried then, and some people out there going, you know what, these kids out there just getting participation trophies. When you're saying awards, like, what is it that schools actually want, and how does this work? Is it a case of like you've been nominated for this? Is it a case of you've won this? Or, because we kind of have this, I'm going to say, misconception sometimes, an award is someone's come first, which means then someone has to come last. Like, how does this work in your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and again, that really comes down to every individual school. So, we have some schools that buy our awards or our challenges, shall we say, in budget and make it compulsory. So that's one way of looking at it. The majority of our schools offer it as an additional extra. So those parents and children will have a conversation. We do launch assemblies, give out information, etc., parents' conversations. If they want to take part, they take part. They're then given up to 18 different challenges to complete throughout the academic year. They don't just get their certificate and their medal. They have to work hard at it. And it's a variety of different challenges in a variety of different ways. So, it is about all that learning that takes place throughout the year with all the different skills. So they do complete that award, that sort of series of learning. But yeah, that's where we're at with that. Sorry.
It's that cold that's going around. We've got it. I've all got it. Like, you might have nose spray that I've gone through these. Not that these people need to know that detail, by the way, but
I know, but it's relevant occasionally.
Lots of it going around in the UAE at the moment. So this is where I start to edit stuff out now, because I had a train of thought then and I've completely lost it.
Sorry, the cough totally set you off there. My apologies.
That was what I was going to ask. Sorry, we'll go back into this. What's been the feedback of school then? Because obviously with this, when you mentioned evidence in there, like, what's the impact of this in terms of where your North Star is in terms of the things you want to do? And you've obviously got all these schools working and using these challenges and using these awards. What's the feedback that you're getting from them and the impact that they're saying it's having on student well-being, student skill sets, students' innovation and entrepreneurship? Like, give us some of that feedback.
I think it's just the fact that children are open to trying new things, to be a bit more daring, to be, think outside the box. And I think not just only children, we got it's really such a, it's like Christmas coming early, where you get these emails that just pop in out of nowhere from people that you will never meet face to face. We had a wonderful one from a dad a couple of weeks ago, just saying, just wanted to let you know, thank you. It's never occurred to me that I am creating a child that isn't a risk taker. Yeah. And it was such a very short email, a couple more sentences basically saying, we've stopped him doing things and we shouldn't have. So it's been a wake-up call for me and the wife. Basically, is how it went. And I think it's things like that you have to go, it's not just about the 18 challenges. It's about really encouraging children to try new things, to have a go, to know and embrace failure. It is something that we all do every day. We fail, and it's perfectly okay to fail. And, through these types of challenges, it almost gives them scaffolding that failing is okay. It might not be perfect. It's okay to have a go. And like I said, it's a perfect timeline for parents, particularly to say, we live in a busy world. Of course, it's easier just to pick up the bag or to make the toast or to do the laundry or to navigate the map. But actually, there's so much mislearning when that happens. And so it is so good for children, but also for parents. And, mum, myself, my boys have grown up. I was so guilty of being the working mum. Just leave it to me. I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, that underlying level of what we try to really showcase.
So let's put this into a context for you and see a different scenario. So we've got a parent, we were talking about these, who say, like, I love the idea of these skills awards, but I barely have time to get through the homework and dinner in itself. I'm busy with the kids. Like, it just feels like more pressure. How does the Edsidera support give like genuine home engagement without becoming another item on the to-do list?
I think time is the most important. And, we're advocates of the fact that, we're not saying it's a turnaround of a week. We're not saying it's a turnaround of a month. They basically have the academic year for pretty much all our awards, apart from the Sunshine Squad, which is something slightly different. And so it's giving parents and children the opportunity to dip in and dip out as and when it works for their life. Because at the end of the day, we do all have hectic lives, and there are more and more sort of deadlines and a hard turnaround on curriculum. And we do talk about well-being, and that factor of those hard turnarounds really can impact well-being of the whole family. So we really strongly advocate of there is choice. Not every single challenge has to be completed. They are able to leave a few out. We do give feedback pretty much instantaneously through the week. So there's that encouragement from our side. They've been very well crafted by a whole team of, school leads, middle leaders, people that have got huge experience in early years for our Little Star Award or in Islamic Studies for our Quran Awards. And so they've been well thought out. They are age appropriate. Yes, there are a few things that definitely need some adult support, but there are many that don't. And so the pressure is more on the child of as and when. Our tech's been designed to be age appropriate. So it's not like, Mum, can you help me get in? Mum, can you do this? Or Dad, I'm not sure how to log in. It's not like that. So we've tried to make it that children can work independently, that they can choose when it's appropriate within that family schedule, because we all have really condensed times, and then there are times that are a little bit quieter. So they've got the opportunity to timetable things in when it works for their family.
It's great stuff. And I can attest to it because I've busy lives. Oh my gosh, yesterday in itself, I think my Wednesdays involve one ECA at one school, dropping another child at a different school for an ECA, coming back to the same school, back to pick up and drop off, and then back again for football. And yeah, the fact that it has that flexibility and adaptability, I think is really, really important, because the more we unpack it and reveal the layers of the Edsidera program, the value is clearly there in terms of the skill sets. And we're going to come back to that, because you mentioned something anyway in that about the Sunshine Squad. And that's really one of the things we want to talk about in terms of where we are now in the year. We're May time. Summer is soon. Well, summer's on us, but summer holidays are soon to be here. Fast approaching. And it's interesting what you've got for this, because you've described it as no budget, no staff time, but high impact. Tell us about the Sunshine Squad, what it is, what the aim of it is, and when it's taking place.
Yeah, so it is basically having a summer camp, a summer buddy in your back pocket for 6 weeks. It kind of has been on the brain shelf, shall we say, since COVID. Dare we mention that? I'm sure we're so over it, but was running this school at the time, and we were still at that point in lockdown period in the UAE, and formal learning had come to an end. So created something on Padlet just to keep kids motivated and going, and have always thought, wouldn't it be great if we could just have, and that really is what the Sunshine Squad is. We have got the most incredible international education partners. So we've got 12 really top-notch partners that are providing content. And how it works basically is the children and parents will have a discussion. Schools are launching it. We're already up to like 60 odd schools signed up to launching. And if you want it, you have it. And if you don't, you don't. Every Monday, there will be different activities that will drop into your account. Again, very much like what we do with our other awards. It will be content on your app with support video, etc. But the activities are not screen-based. We've got everything from Pobble for writing, Komodo for wellbeing, TeachRex challenges, Magic Phil, who's well known in this region. We've got Monster Fun. We've got anything and everything that you can imagine to keep that learning happening, but in a really fun and creative way. We've also introduced little things that I think are important in terms of what summer should be about, like relearning family games. The amount of children that don't know how to play certain games that we've all learned throughout our childhood or with grandparents. There are opportunities for embracing nature and getting out there with Nature Wave. There are opportunities for speaking and also having the opportunity to be able to say, you know what, I'm not doing great at the moment. I am on my own. I'm not got any friends around. I've not got the structure of school. So we're really trying to make sure that we're there in a supportive way with wellbeing as well. So yeah, no impact on budget, timetable, anything for a school, but they'll get all the evidence at the end. And I know it seems so boring to constantly talk about evidence, but when you are a school leader, it is something that's really important. And it's a way to showcase that you are supporting your school community over the summer period when it's critically important that your own staff are taking that rest time for their own well-being, but we're just keeping up that momentum so that when they do come back to school, they've had an enriching experience that they can, again, tap into as and when they want. You know, there's parents that may well have to work throughout the summer. Yeah. They might get holidays, they might not. You know, there's children that may or may not spend time with extended family or with people that are helping in the home. This is, again, just another little bit of a toolkit, a bit of a support for them over the summer holidays.
It sounds fantastic. How I'm interested in finding out more. Where and what should I be doing to get my hands on this?
Yeah, so we're going mostly through schools. Obviously, you can register through our website, but predominantly we are pushing it through schools. And there is a reason for that, because whatever we do always has a school incentive. You know, no matter what it is, I'm always a fan of supporting schools. So if parents do sign up, the school will also be able to utilize some of the money from the award in terms of purchasing teaching and learning opportunities from our partners. So information will come from your school. If you do not have it, then contact us through the website and we will get it to you directly. You'll be able to sign up from about halfway through May till about halfway through June. Learning then kicks in, obviously, depending on your school calendar, predominantly the second week of July, all the way through to the end of the summer holidays. And again, there's enrichment, there's, fitness and well-being, there's keeping yourself healthy. There's a whole combination, but we will be channeling it mostly through your school community.
Amazing. And we'll make sure, obviously, we put the website link in our description and show notes below. But it sounds like a fantastic initiative. I think
collaboration is the key, Alex. You and I know that we work in a world that is so passionate. Well, most people are so passionate about collaboration. And I think when it's done properly and when it's genuine and when you collaborate with people that have got the same vision, the same values, you really can get that sparkle dust of an opportunity. And I think that's kind of what we've been able to pull off with the Sunshine Squad, definitely.
It's definite. Is this the first year it's properly running, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, definitely. So we considered launching last summer, but we weren't ready. And so we just put a pause on it and just shelved it for this summer. So we'll run it Northern Hemisphere summer, and then we come back into another period for the Southern Hemisphere when we'll be supporting schools in South Africa, New Zealand, Australia.
Phenomenal. I couldn't help but pick on something that you said during that, which I'd never heard before. It's called the brain shelf, which I loved, by the way. And I'm really interested. Obviously, this is obviously a fantastic initiative, and I don't want to overshadow it, but I am curious because I think from the conversations we have, we're very similar in that there's always something. Apart from global domination, what's next for Edsidera? Where do you want to be going? And let's say as we're halfway through 2025 now, it's a fantastic initiative starting next summer. We want to keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
What's there for you?
Yeah, so we're already onboarding schools every other day at the moment, ready for the next academic year. Obviously, we are a global, we're very proud to be based in Dubai. It is my home, basically. And, we're fortunate that we have private equity backing, which is also based in Dubai. But we understand that the world works on its own time frame and timeline. Indian curriculum schools are just coming back in. The Thai calendar kicks in at the beginning of May. So it's not the fact that just because the academic year that you're currently working in is maybe coming to an end doesn't mean everybody else is. So we're constantly working with different schools in different regions, different communities. We've got 4 products, if we want to call them that: the Rising Star Award, Little Star Award, Karam Awards, and obviously our Sunshine Squad. For now, that's where we're kind of stopping with that. We're really working on just getting the word out and onboarding more and more communities with those 4 awards. But we also now have an incredible opportunity which has come about. And I'm not one for using the word organically. It's not something every time I ever hear it, I'm like, ugh, don't like that phrase. But it has come about organically. And the fact is that we've worked really hard with FutureByte, who are our tech supporters. They're part of, our family. So they've really work so hard with us to get our platform, our apps, just where we want them to be. But what we can now do with that is that we can support any agenda for any business. If a company wants to get into a situation where they've got educational outreach or they're running a certain campaign, but of course they don't want to go and hire an entire education team or a tech team, we're actually that bridge into that. And we're already starting to do that for a couple of different companies already, which is super exciting. Yeah. So for Edsidera, it's going to be traditional on one side and full business bespoke on the other.
Amazing. Yeah, it's something you can obviously tell when you're listening to you. You're very, very passionate about. And I think that comes across with the words and how you say it and how you are with it, which, is for what this is. It's not, and I'm going to say this for someone who is, it's so refreshing almost to hear you talk about education in a passionate way that has nothing to do with AI.
Yeah, AI is, we are in the AI world, do not get me wrong. And Edsidera has a sprinkling already of AI, and to put it into context, Alex, we have a team of educators that work for us, and we obviously provide personalized feedback to every child. Now, we're talking thousands of children. Do I, as an educational lead, think that it's appropriate that maybe a child of 6 should be hearing 5 different voices give feedback? I don't, actually. So we have an Edsidera voice. So although, so that's how we've used AI, because
Is it your voice, Rachel?
Sorry?
Is it your voice? Oh.
I hate my voice. Oh my goodness. No, it's not mine. But in that way, so of course I think you have to be foolish not to think that AI will always find a golden thread through what we're doing at the moment. But we are a people company. You know, I'm a people person, and you know me, Alex. You know, I am somebody that knows a lot of people, and I value that in my life. And yeah, we are a people company, and I think we always will be. And we want to make sure that, you know, our communities know that as well. So there is an AI element. And we were talking about that in Riyadh yesterday, about the AI element, but we were also saying how incredibly personalized we are and how important it is to keep that in.
Yeah, definitely. And this is, by the way, anyone who's listening to this knows how I am with AI.
Yeah.
Having just been involved heavily in the last AI week and leading workshops on it. But I am I want it to make my life better.
Yeah.
And by doing that, as an educator, I want it to make the experience my students get. And as a father, I want it to make the opportunity and experience my kids get better.
Yes.
And so what I realize is that it has the potential to do it, but it can only do that if I'm a well-rounded person first and foremost. And, you know, although we can say it's got this, no, let's just start with making good people. And a lot of the people I've spoken to who are pushing the boundaries with AI and doing wonderful things and research still say, hey, AI in education is about how do we make good people? How can we make good people better? And I firmly believe that. So listening to you when we're talking about skills, things that resonate with me, talking about well-being, talking about leadership, entrepreneurship, all these different things, you know, it resonates with me. And I'm really, really impressed and really, really inspired. And we know that we've spoken loads of times about the type of work you're doing. And it leads me into this one because we hear a lot now in education. You would have had this all the time within your roles. We go forward. It's about culture, and it's kind of, you know, it rears its head, it dips and dives, but obviously culture is still this big thing within schools, whether it's talked about or not all the time. And what I'm interested from your experience, from all the schools that you have been in and seen, is like, how do you go about building a culture where leadership and life skills, maybe kindness, are not extra, that they're the norm?
I think, you know, you always have to go back to, like I said, you have to put people first. You know, life is hectic. Life is, you know, there's always a to-do list. There's always, you know, it's a cycle. You're on the hamster wheel. You know, by this point, if you're a school leader, you've almost forgotten about term 3. You're into term 1 of the next year. I think you've always just got to stop and pause and think about the people, because if you get your relationships right, if you are there, you're supportive, you know, kindness is absolutely free. It is the easiest quality to have, to stop and literally ask, how are you doing today? Or to reach out with an email. You know, like case in point, that dad, there was no need for him to actually reach out to say, you know, thanks so much. Yeah. But it's that type of quality that we try to instill in what we're doing. And I think schools work so hard at it, but then they get bogged down. No different to any business, no different to any family. There are times where just life takes over. But I think if you constantly come back to being genuine, to sticking to your core values, what goes around comes around, you know. And I think since leaving formal education, not that I had planned to do this, that, or the other 15 years ago, but it has made me realize that the type of person that I am and who I have been in my professional career has also then cycled back out to be a very supportive situation in where I am right now. And I think you can never, ever undervalue what taking just a little bit of time out to reach out to people, to stop and say hello, to pay a compliment, to be genuine and be honest sometimes is also equally as important. And I think that is the most important quality that a school lead, a teacher, a parent, a friend, a mum, a business owner can have.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's one of those things that's often overlooked.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend colleague yesterday as well. And I never used to really be massively into voice notes. I know. We were communicating this way, weren't we?
Yeah.
And yet my wife, like, with her work and everything she does, she just says voice notes are just so much easier. And even though you're still sending that message, okay, but there is something more personable, taking the time to send the voice note and being able to talk it through. And then people can hear the tone and the emotion in what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's little things like that, just being able to say, even if it's just a 5-10 seconds,
it is so important. We were at the YS conference in South Korea in February, and I'm so proud to be part of that community. And the way that the joy of international education and expat life works, that I ended up teaming up with an old colleague, Gemma Stanton, who's currently head at Dulwich, head of primary in Dulwich in China. And we were talking about well-being and work-life balance. Is it actually possible? And just practical things. And I said, one of the things that I do, which I always get feedback from, not formal feedback, but feedback from, is that I have a Wednesday well-being and alarm. And everyone joked. And I went, no, genuinely, I do. And it just sounds at a set time on a Wednesday when generally I wouldn't be, work dominated. And it just reminds me to reach out to 3 people. And it's maybe not people that I speak to every single day. But again, like you, Alex, I used to text, but now I voice note. And the difference of being able to literally go, I am so proud of you, compared to I'm so proud of you. It's everything. And I think it's small gestures. Stick to constantly thinking people first, and everything else takes care of itself.
It's a great one. That is a great one. Yeah, and it resonates with me. I strongly agree with that one as well. Especially this time at teachers at the moment.
Oh, geez,
we're feeling a bit afraid with these exams and everything else. And it's easy to be short. It's easy to snap and, just reach out. Just reach out and go, hey, how you doing?
Just have a little reset every now and again. Have a little, if you need to, have a little scream in the car before the kids get in, or, take yourself off. And another one, I certainly, and I know it's spoken about all the time, but I got myself into a rut as a school lead, but having exercise, and I'm not running a London marathon anytime soon, but incorporating even a half an hour walk, you cannot underestimate the importance of that. Just being able to just decamp from your day.
Most definitely. We look forward to your workout videos coming next for Edsidera. If there was a list of the top 20 things that Edsidera would be promoting and creating, Rachel's workout would not be on there, Alex. You do not need to worry. Definitely not. Coming to a store near you soon. Workout with Wild Thing. There's the pun. That's the one.
That's the one.
You know what? You've even got the leopard, the print on.
I know.
The
I'm
play
channeling like the 80s Good Morning TV, aerobics workout like vibe, right? Yeah. I think we can all leave that for an AI picture version rather than the real thing.
I think this thing has got momentum. I'm telling you now.
Who knows? Who knows what the future holds, right?
Love it. I would love it. But I don't know how we're going to top. But we'll try. We'll try and top this. We're going to close out. We've got a final question for you for this one. If every child in the world could carry one lesson from the Sunshine Squad with them into adulthood, what would you want it to be and why?
Always give something a try. Don't be afraid not to have a try. And I think if we can encourage generational effort into trying new things, then we will never have a problem. I would say always have a go.
Amazing. I think that's a great piece of advice in general, and a great piece of advice and an idea to finish with as well. So Rachel, thank you ever so much for taking the time to come and speak to us today on the International Classroom podcast. And I wish you all the best with the Sunshine Squad. We'll make sure we put everything out there and people reach out to your schools, tell your schools if they don't offer it, that they need to offer it. visit the website and everything. And yeah, have a fantastic summer break. And you're obviously going to be exceptionally busy with this, and look forward to seeing you again, probably then in the new school year.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, Alex. And look forward to seeing all that you are up to as well. Definitely.